Hello, welcome to Football Heaven 24/7. I'm your host, Jamie Carter. We're back for the 20th episode, and it's the final day of the season review in the Premier League, a few of non-league games, and a few playoff games to get through, or finals to get through. I'm going to start off real quick. Obviously, the last day of the battle, it was down to 1 point difference. Manchester City were 1 point clear of Liverpool going into the last two games of the season, the last game of the season for both teams. Manchester City, they were playing at home to Aston Villa. Now, the game, it started off really, really slowly for Manchester City. Manchester City were not really getting into the groove of everything. They were having a really mad time of it. And basically, what happened was that basically they ended up going 2-0 down. Now, they went down early to a goal from a Cash. It was a cross from a header on the 37th minute. And then an old Liverpool player who would have been desperate to help out Liverpool, along with the Aston Villa manager, obviously, Steven Gerrard, ex-Liverpool legend, probably one of the greatest Liverpool players ever. Anyway, Coutinho scored the second goal, and that put Aston Villa 2-0 up. Now, at this point, Liverpool was drawing 1-1 in their game at home to Wolves, and Wolves had taken an early advantage through Pedro Neto on the 3rd minute. Great cross by Jimenez, and he slotted it away about 4 yards, from 4 yards out, basically. Liverpool, it took a while to get going, but Mane eventually equalised on the 24th minute, but it was very, very tight. Aston Villa was winning 2-0, and Liverpool was drawing 1-1. Now, Liverpool, they couldn't go ahead of City because they were level on points at that stage, but they couldn't go ahead of them because Manchester City had a better goal difference by +6 on them. So the game kept going on, and it really looked like, obviously, if Liverpool got another goal, Liverpool would win the title. Liverpool were pushing and pushing away, trying to get that second elusive goal that was going to put them in the lead against Aston Villa and ultimately mean that if things stayed the same at Manchester City, 2-0 down to Aston Villa, that they would end up winning the league, basically. But anyway, as the game went on, it looked like Villa were going to take that away from Manchester City, all that hard work. But three goals in quick succession in 5 minute spell. Two from Gundogan and one from Rodri on the 76th, the 78th, and the 81st minute. Took the game away from Aston Villa and meant that it didn't really matter what was going on at Liverpool. Liverpool got 2 goals back in the last 6 minutes through Mohamed Salah and John Robertson. Now, Mo Salah, who's fighting for the Golden Boot, along with Heung-min Son of Tottenham. Both of them started the day. One started on 21 goals. 22 goals. That was Salah, and Heung-min was on 21. Now, obviously, in his game at Norwich, he got to 2 goals. That meant that he finished with 23 goals. Salah got that goal in the Liverpool game. Liverpool's game finished 3-1. Manchester City's finished 3-2, meaning Manchester City won the title. But what it meant was that both Mohamed Salah and Heung-min Son finished as joint Golden Boot winners of the Premier League, both on 23 each. Liverpool put up a good fight, but in the end, they lost out by 1 point. Manchester City had 93 points. Liverpool had 92 points. But yet again, a really, really close fought title between Manchester City and Liverpool. Manchester City coming out on top for the second time, a close scrape against Liverpool. That is now 4 titles in the last 5 seasons for Manchester City, which is pretty impressive. They're dominating English football as far as the title goes. Although this season Liverpool have done really well, getting to 3 finals, 2 of which they've won, the League Cup and the FA Cup, on penalties against Chelsea, and they've still got the game against Real Madrid coming this weekend at 8:00, I believe, on Saturday. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens for them. But as I say, Manchester City won the title. Now, down at the other end of the table, at the bottom end, it was a straight shootout between Leeds United and Burnley. Now, Leeds United were away at Brentford, who have had a fantastic season, and Brentford were lying in 11th at the start of the day. They were obviously safe. They've been safe a few weeks back. But they were playing against Leeds. Leeds had to win there and hope that the Burnley result was worse than whatever result they could get. So anyway, look, going into the games, Burnley was playing at home to Newcastle in their game, but Newcastle, they went into a 2-goal lead, and that put them 2-0 up. But that meant that at that stage of the game, that really all Leeds had to do was basically get a point in their game to make sure that they would stay up. Now that game was going pretty slowly as well. Rafinha got a penalty on the 56th minute, which put Leeds advantage to Leeds. But as the game wore on the 78th minute, Canos, one of the defenders for Brentford, ended up getting an equaliser with 12 minutes to go in the game. But that still meant that Leeds were going to Leeds was still going to go down on goal difference, basically. But anyway, the game started going on and on. Now, Canos got sent off, the player that equalised for Brentford. He was sent off, and another player was injured. Ayer got injured, and Brentford had used all their substitutes, which meant they couldn't get any more players on the pitch. So Brentford were playing with 9 players for like literally the last sort of 5-10 minutes of the game. Well, 10 minutes of the game, which gave Leeds United a distinct advantage in the situation they were in, and it proved decisive because although Burnley got a goal back from Cornet on the 69th minute, it wasn't enough because Leeds ended up getting a dramatic injury time winner through Harrison. He scored on the 90th minute, which meant that Leeds United have another season in the Premier League and that Burnley go down for the first time in 6 seasons. So Burnley had a really, really good run with Sean Dyche. Obviously, they sacked Sean Dyche and put one of his assistants in charge, Mike Jackson, but he wasn't able to keep them up. Burnley finally go down to the Championship. They've had a few close scrapes in previous seasons and they've just stayed up, but I feel that when you're not getting much of a budget off your chairman, it's only a matter of time before you end up falling out of the Premier League. So they did well to have 6 seasons, but anyway, there we go. Burnley are in the Championship. Obviously, they joined Watford and Norwich. As I said earlier, Leeds United stayed up. Everton was safe after beating Crystal Palace from 2-0 behind on last Thursday. They won 3-2 against Crystal Palace on Thursday, which cemented their safety going into the last game of the season. So they were playing away at Arsenal. Arsenal had to win. Arsenal were fighting out with Tottenham for that final Champions League place in 4th. But Tottenham were away at the bottom of the table, Norwich, so they didn't really struggle. They ended up winning 5-0. Arsenal won 5-1 against Everton. But obviously, like I say, Spurs ended up getting that spot by 2 points. They finished 4th. Obviously, so it was Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea finished 3rd. They came from looking like it was going to be a draw in their game. Havertz scored early on. Gosling then equalised for Watford 3 minutes before the end. But then Ross Barkley, a rarely ever played player, he scored a winner for Chelsea, which meant that they cemented their 3rd place and Champions League spot for next season. In the other games involving teams that could have got into Europe, there was a fight out between West Ham and Manchester United, basically for West Ham to either finish in the Europa League places or for them to finish in the Europa League conference playoff instead. Anyway, looking at it, Manchester United was away at Crystal Palace. They did poorly yet again. Zaha got a goal on the 37th minute. Manchester United had their new boss, Ten Hag, the former Ajax boss, watching in to assess what's going on at Manchester United, and he must have been really, really, really worried because he's got a lot of work to do there. They lost 1-0 to Palace. Palace had a decent season, their first season under Patrick Vieira. They finished 12th, which is quite satisfactory. They finished with a plus goal average for the first time in their Premiership history. And they finished with the most wins that they've had in the Premier League ever. So it was a decent season for them. Kind of like mid-table, it's like mediocre, but that's all you could really expect at Crystal Palace, to be fair. But they've done all right. The surprise of the season, in all honesty, had to be Brighton. Graham Potter did fantastic. That was the other game. West Ham went 1-0 ahead through Antonio, and at that point of the day, when Antonio scored on the 40th minute, it looked like everything was going to go West Ham's way, and that West Ham were going to finish in that Europa League place in 6th. But it was taken away because in the second half, Brighton just played fantastic. An equaliser from Veltman and a goal from Gross and Welbeck in the last 10 minutes. But those two goals condemned West Ham to finish in seventh. Although West Ham have had a great season, they got to the semi-finals of the Europa League, so they surpassed all expectation really. And another good season for West Ham, another good job done by David Moyes, and he'll be really pleased with that effort from his team, considering that their squad isn't that big, and they didn't really strengthen in the January transfer window, so it didn't really look like they could achieve anything greater than that. There was slight hints at different stages of the season that they may have a chance of the Champions League, but I always thought that that the tiredness was going to tell, especially playing in all those competitions. But they've done themselves proud. Mark Noble, it was his last game for West Ham. He had 550 appearances for West Ham, and he was there all of his life since he was, well, pretty much since he was 11-year old. Most of his life, should I say, since he was an 11-year old at the academy. Uh, he done some great things, as I say. He appeared in an FA Cup final for West Ham, and won a playoff trophy with West Ham when he was playing for them. He's been a one-man. He stayed at that club all the way through his life. I believe he had a loan spell somewhere else as well, but he was at West Ham the majority of his career, so that's fantastic. Hopefully he'll go into a coaching role. I'm guessing it will be at West Ham or maybe somewhere else if they can't take him on, but we'll see what happens with that anyway. There was other games going on that I've not mentioned. Leicester City, they had a little bit of a revival, but that's because they were playing some of the lower league teams. Sorry, not lower leagues, teams that were lower in the league. Um, and they had a great finish to the season. They won 4-1 against Southampton. Goals from Madison, Vardy, and two from Perez, who barely plays. Ward-Prowse had a penalty for Southampton, but like I say, Leicester ended up winning 4-1. So that was good for them. As I said earlier, Spurs smashed Norwich 5-0. Kulusevski, who was a great loan signing brought in by Conte when he took over at Spurs. He's had a great season for them. He scored two. Kane got a goal. Kane had a bit of an injury disrupt season. Plus, it, you could tell he was mentally affected by not getting that transfer to Manchester City, but he still ended up with 17 goals, sorry, for the end of the season. So he done quite well. And as I said earlier, Son got the two goals that allowed him to be the joint Golden Boot winner with Mohamed Salah of Liverpool. So been a great season for a lot of teams. It's not really a surprise to see those three teams at the bottom get relegated: Burnley, Watford, and Norwich. It was only a matter of time, really, for Burnley. I suppose at the start of the season, people would be thinking Brentford would be the favourites to get relegated, but they had a great season. Of course, they got Ericsson on loan because the manager's Danish, and he got a lot of. They brought wisely. They brought some great players in. Mentions for him. Bermo was a great player for them. Ivan Toney done fantastic for Brentford. They're probably the standout team this season because, as I say, most people would have expected Brentford to probably finish the season bottom on about 20 points or something like that, but or even less than that. But they surpassed expectations, and they drew at home to Liverpool 3-3. They won away 4-1 memorably at Chelsea. So they've had a great season. I mean, their fans. This is probably one of the best seasons they've had for. Well, we're probably looking at nearly 100 years. So they've done brilliant. They've got every reason to be proud. They're the ones that should get a special mention. Brentford and Brighton, Graham Potter, who's done fantastic. All the other teams were sort of ended up in places that you'd sort of expect them to end up in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next season. Fulham and Bournemouth are already promoted, going back up, and obviously Huddersfield and Nottingham Forest are battling it out. Huddersfield have only been out of the Premier League for a couple of seasons in the Championship, but they'll be battling it out against Forest on Sunday at 4:30. And that's on Sky main event, I believe. And they'll be fighting it out. Forest, like I said in the previous episodes, they've not been in the Premier League for 23 years. As I say, I was 18 when they were last there. Pretty embarrassing. They're a massive team. Obviously, won 2 European Cups under Brian Clough. Won a lot of League Cups and various other trophies through the years, predominantly in the 80s and late 70s. But it'd be interesting to see if they can get in there. I'm predicting that Forest. I'm going to be biased, you can see, because I'm wearing the shirt, but the training top. But I do think that Forest will do it. I think they've got a great manager there. Obviously, Huddersfield have got a good manager as well. He was an assistant to Marco Bielsa, but I'm guessing he was the defensive coach for Marco Bielsa at Leeds because Huddersfield seem to have quite a good defence. So, but I still think Forest will win 2-0. I'm going to go for goals from Ben Johnson, and I'm going to say a goal from Sam Surridge as well. So we'll see what happens. I might be wrong. I've been wrong before, but like I say, if I was right every week, I'd be a multimillionaire by now. So, it'll be interesting to see, but we'll see what happens with those guys. But going like into the lower leagues, the League One playoff final was between Sunderland and Wycombe Wanderers. Sunderland, they got fanatical support, as a lot of people know. They brought down 47,000 fans to Wembley and travelled a long way. The attendance for that game was 72,332. So if my maths serves me correctly, that means that Wycombe brought down 25,000. So they all brought 25,000. Now Wycombe obviously pretty much right next to London, so it was easier for them to get down compared to the Sunderland fans. So a great effort by Sunderland. They were rewarded seeing their team win 2-0. A goal early on by Embleton on the 12th minute, and then a goal sort of 11 minutes from the end from Ross Stewart, who was their top goal scorer for the season, meant that Sunderland go back into the Championship, and they go back along with Wigan and Rotherham. So that's great for those teams. Going even lower into the lower leagues, I don't normally do non-league too low, but looking at it now, York City, they finally got into the conference. It was a local derby, Lincolnshire derby, between York, well, not Lincolnshire, Yorkshire and Lincolnshire derby, between York and Boston. Boston won 2 York won 2-0. John Lewis, and a goal from, I can't even read it, Kubiar on 86 minutes, sealed it for York. They were playing at Doncaster Rovers Stadium. There was over 7,000 fans there. In the other Conference League final between Dorking and Ebbsfleet, Dorking won 3-2. And that means that Dorking and York City, they'll be playing in the conference next season, along with two other teams that escape me at the moment. But I thought I would mention that because it was in the paper. And also, even further, we're going into the Scottish League. After the disappointment of losing narrowly on penalties to Eintracht Frankfurt in the Europa League final, which Rangers did fantastic to get to, they ended up winning in extra time. Again, they had to play extra time against Hearts, and they won 2-0. Goals from Jack and Wright meant that Rangers didn't have a trophy this season after a really good effort. I believe Celtic have got more money than Rangers, and they're able to attract better players. But Rangers still had a fantastic season. Yeah, they lost the Scottish title by 6 points, but they really had made a good go of it. To be fair. There was another non-league final going on at the weekend. It was the FA Trophy final, which is kind of like the FA Cup for the non-league teams of England. Well, I should say the UK because there's a few Welsh teams in there. And one of them, Wrexham, who's owned by the Hollywood superstar Ryan Reynolds, he was there to watch his team along with David Beckham and Will Ferrell and various other A-list people. But the underdog, Bromley, who had finished 11th in the conference as opposed to Wrexham's second place, they ended up winning 1-0, a goal from Michael Cheek. And that meant that Bromley got their first bit of major silverware in a long, long time. So congratulations to them. They've done brilliant. Just having a look over the week's fixtures to come. We've got St Johnstone are playing against Inverness. That's a playoff final, basically, to decide which one of those stays in the Premiership, in the Scottish Premiership, or which one gets promoted to the Premiership. So it's in the Scottish League. So we'll have to see what happens in there. I think St Johnstone will win 2-1. If that's the case, they'll win 4-3, and they'll end up staying in the Premiership, in the Scottish Premiership. So also Notts County are playing tonight in an eliminator for the conference playoffs. They're playing at home to Grimsby. One of my good friends is going up there. I'm going to say 3-1 to Notts County in that game, and that will mean that they will go on to play Solihull Moors, who finished third in the conference. And then there's another game that's being played, and my mate's going to this as well. Halifax Town against Chesterfield. The winner of Halifax Town against Chesterfield, and I think Halifax will win that 2-0, will go on to play Wrexham, and then whoever wins out of those in those two games, it will go on to the final. So we'll see what happens. Very interesting stuff for the conference. There's still that place that's up for grabs. Obviously, it's exciting for those teams. I personally think that Solihull Moors will be the team that ends up finishing in League Two. I think there's been a lot of emphasis on Wrexham because of their owners, all the money that they've got. But I just think they're going to come short this season. I think they're going to go again next season, probably win the title next year, to be fair, because they've got the financial backing to do so. Massive games coming up this weekend coming up. Saturday is the Champions League final. Liverpool playing Real Madrid. I'm going to say that's going to be a very tight game. I'm going to actually go for Real Madrid to win that. And I'm going to say for them to win that 3-2 in extra time. I'm going to go for Real Madrid. And then, like I say, Forest are playing against Huddersfield. I've said 2-0 to Forest for that one. And that's it, really. That's coming towards the end of the season. Then we're going into the Nations League, which is going to be starting in June. But got to be honest, I'm not really interested in that. It's just FIFA's way of making more money. But we'll see what happens anyway. England have got a couple of juicy sort of like ties in there. One of them's away at Germany. So we'll have to see what happens with the Nations League. But I'll do a focus on that when it comes around. But as I say, this is the final Premier League table. Manchester City, as I said earlier, they finished top, 93 points in first. Just behind them with 1 point, you've got Liverpool. In third, you've got Chelsea. Then Tottenham in fourth. Arsenal in fifth. Manchester United finished sixth. West Ham in seventh. In eighth is Leicester City. Ninth is Brighton. 10th is Wolverhampton Wanderers. 11th place is Newcastle United. 12th is Crystal Palace. 13th is Brentford even. 14th is Aston Villa. 15th, Southampton. 16th, Everton. 17th, Leeds United. Congratulations to Leeds United for getting that final minute win. They're going to be in the Prem next year. 18th and relegated, Burnley. 19th, relegated, Watford. And 20th, relegated, Norwich City. At the end of the season, Son and Salah, like I say, finished top goal scorers. Ronaldo, although he came probably a month and a half, 2 months into the season, he finishes in third place. That just shows how much of a great player he is, despite playing in an awful Manchester United team that finished sixth. He finishes with 18 goals. And just behind him, we've got Harry Kane with 17, who started the season off really slowly, but come back into his own under Conte. Shout out for Spurs. They done fantastic, because from where they were when Conte took over in ninth, didn't look like they had any chance of getting in the Champions League. Arsenal have had a good season because they finished the last two seasons in eighth. So to finish fifth, I think that's still a good season for Arsenal. I think they'll probably build on that next year. We'll see what happens anyway. Going to be very, very interesting. Keep liking and subscribing. Keep getting involved. Keep getting all your friends and family involved, because we're going to get bigger and better. We are going to have discussions. We are going to take it out on the road. We are going to meet lots of people, see what their views are on different things to do with the football and what's going on in the football world in general. And obviously, there's going to be very, very many interesting things. As I said earlier in the last episode or previous episodes, we are going to do like reviews of past seasons gone by in the Premiership. We're also going to talk about teams, talk about their history, talk about what makes them famous, what trophies they've achieved, all the interesting stories that you can imagine that we could bring up. We're going to get all that out there for you. Have a great week. Whoever's team you support, I'm sorry if your team did bad. If they did good, that's fantastic. But there's always next season. And remember, next season anything can happen. Losers can turn to winners again, and vice versa. So we'll see what happens. But it's never boring. And that's the beautiful thing about football. Have a great week. All the best. I've been your host, Jamie Carter, Football Heaven 24/7. Episode 20. Get on board. Get your friends on board. If they don't, they're mugs. All the best. Bye.